So once you've decided who you don't want to attract, makes sense what we're going to do next. We want to talk about who are the types of companies we would like to go after. And here's where the dynamic tends to start to shift. People start to get excited to think about, oh, well, insurance would be perfect for us. I mean, it would be great if we could get Progressive or State Farm or Nationwide or any of the other insurance companies, right? Again, this is where board members start to get excited. So you can kind of watch the progression of them first being a little hesitant, getting their views out, getting out who they want to make sure doesn't come into the organization, and then getting them refocused on who you should attract in the organization. Now, here's a little tip for you as well. If you're able to do this, if you happen to be doing a board retreat that's multiple days, my suggestion is to do one session, and I don't mean the whole day. I mean, this could be like an hour. Do an hour session around who you don't want, and then the next day, focus on who you do want. Or if you have to do this in one session, if you have to, and that happens, start with the don't, take a break, and then go into the list of those you do want to attract. I think it's really important for people to have a break to refocus so they can focus on the positive of who they want to attract into the organization. And it's really important at this moment that you really treat it as a true brainstorming session. I don't care who they decide to recommend to you, you put it on the list. There will be times later in the progress of putting together your guidelines to say if that company is right or wrong. But in the moment, just to keep everybody going, just really take the list as is. Okay. Some people will talk about industries. Other people are going to be more comfortable talking about actual names of companies. So that's a big bulk of your guideline. And then another section of the guideline that you could utilize is, what are we using the sponsorship money for? Okay. And again, we talked earlier that you can attribute this back to the goal. So if your goal is to bring X amount of dollars in sponsorship, then you can kind of go down to this next section. Okay, what will that money be utilized for? Now, you don't have to do this. It's just an exercise that I think boards tend to like. If it really is just general revenue, just to increase the revenue of your organization, that's fine. But if you're able to decipher specific programs that you want to build sponsorship around, that's even better. So I just went through a sponsorship guidelines exercise with an association that is educational in nature. And we really kind of narrowed it down to 3 specific programs that the association offers that we're going to find sponsorship for. So instead of just kind of opening the entire door to let's find sponsorship for anything, in our guidelines, let's pick 2 or 3 or 4, no more than 5 initiatives that we want to find sponsorship for. Again, that helps to provide focus. It helps make our board members feel a little more at ease that not everything out there is going to be sponsored. And it keeps everybody on the same page, as I was talking about earlier with this guideline. So that's all really, really important. And then honestly, the final section of the guidelines is really more of talking about these guidelines can be updated and reviewed and changed as the nature of the organization changes, right? So here's a great example. Let's say that your nonprofit had a great year and met and exceeded its goals for bringing in corporate sponsorship. And the initial sponsorship guidelines just focused on those 3 areas that we talked about. Let's just make this up. Let's say that your nonprofit had a webinar series, you were going to be doing an outreach event, and you wanted to find sponsorship for a special white paper you were doing. I don't know, just making those up. Those went so well this year that as you're looking into next year, you're going to revitalize the guidelines, revise those guidelines in order to include more items to sponsor. Or maybe you're going to, maybe there's potential for general operating. If that's not a term you're familiar with, I know my nonprofits out there definitely are. General operating is really that amazing funding that really you could utilize it for just about anything you want. It's the hardest to get. But there's nothing wrong with making a goal of getting it, right? Okay. So once you've put all of these guidelines together, you go back to a next board meeting, or you can submit the guidelines via email, have your board look at them, see if there's any other questions, go through maybe 1 or 2 versions, adding, subtracting based on feedback. And then at an upcoming meeting, submit those guidelines for final approval. And there you go.